Hello everybody, welcome to the Stratoscale Hybrid DevOps Pros. I'm Ariel, here today with Doug. Hi
Hello.
Doug. We're going to talk about Symphony database services and focus on MySQL. So, Doug, take us away.
Okay, so MySQL is the first database we added to our offering, and today we're going to go through the functionality that we have for our cloud database.
Fantastic.
So let me start with going into our database instances panel. I have some ready here, but I'm going to take us through the create operation.
Let's do that.
So you push create. We're going to give this a name. We're going to call it new instance. We put a description in, and we can select an engine version. Right now, I just have MySQL and Postgres loaded, but we'll take MySQL 5.7. We'll talk about parameter groups in a little bit, but first we need to give it a instance type. So this selects the compute size.
How many resources do we want to give it?
The number of resources certainly depends on your usage. For my demo today, I'm going to pick M1 Medium, which is the 2 CPU, 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Fantastic.
And we get to pick a data volume. Now, one of the things about that you're going to see later in the demo is you can scale each of these independently.
That's
so
great.
If you pick the wrong one, then you can change it later. So we're going to say make this a 10 gigabytes of data, and then we're going to leave it on our pool there. For network, this will be launched into our VPC that I've already provisioned, and we're going to let it auto-select, in this case, an elastic IP.
Okay.
If you want to expose your database outside of this cloud, that's what you use. You can also pick none, and it would just be on a private network, but today we're going to expose it. We can provision for automatic backup. So you know the default is you don't have to back it up, but we could say we want it to back up every day at
It's
midnight.
fantastic that the system takes care of that for you.
Yes, absolutely. And last thing we have to do is put some credential information in. So we're going to call this database testDB. We're going to we're going to give a username of Doug and password. And optionally, you can actually have it pre-configure the connection to use transport level encryption.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that today, but we'll just do this. So while that's launching, we can take a look at the ones I previously provisioned.
Now, you use the wizard to launch that database instance. You can also fully automate it, right?
Correct.
Infrastructure as code.
Yes, and there's a couple of options there. Certainly, a popular one would be to use our Amazon-compatible RDS APIs. So you could use something like Terraform or call them through Boto. We also have a command line interface and REST APIs for it.
Perfect.
So let's take a look at this. This is, I call this one, this is our production database. So this is going to be the master instance in my replication scenario that I'm going to set up. So I want to show off one of our features, which is an important feature, which is for availability and failover. We have some operations. So first, before we do that, we'll go through some of this other information we have. So for a running database instance, you can see some information here. Probably the most important piece of information on the screen is the elastic IP information that's right here.
How do I reach my database?
Yes. So if you're on the internal network, you can use the IP to get to it, and from an outside network, you would use the elastic IP. One thing to note, the database is completely reachable by in this case, any MySQL client. They all would work because it's a MySQL database. So you can also view logs. So this is important sometimes to system administrators or developers that are trying to troubleshoot. So if you click on this, you see that's all that I have at the moment, but that's the MySQL error log. And over time, we track some events that are happening during the life cycle of this database. So we just have
so it's a fully managed database instance.
Yes. Yes. So some other things that are important. While I did configure this for I did configure this for automatic backup. At any point in time, you could take a snapshot. So we could do this, and it will go off and take a snapshot.
So we have a point in time snapshot that then we can restore
Correct.
from later on.
So let's go ahead and set up a replica of this one. So to do that, we would push the replica button. So because we're managing this, we have all the information already stored about it. So when you make a replica, it'll create the right version of MySQL for it. It'll put it on the right network and all those things. So let's just go ahead and let's just go ahead and make one here. So while that's spinning up, I have one I previously made. Here it is. So this is the replica. So this is configured as a read replica. So you wouldn't accidentally have somebody writing to it and then you corrupt all your data. So it's configured as a read replica, and you'll notice that it doesn't have an elastic IP on it.
So it's not reachable yet from the outside.
Right. As I'll show you, the failover operation would relocate the elastic IP. So I guess we could go ahead and do you want to go ahead and try one of the failover operations?
Let's do that.
Okay, so let's say the scenario here is that you notice that your master database is not functioning the way you want. Maybe network partition, maybe the node went down. So you can go in here. So the first failover operation is promote. So literally you pick the replica, and you can have more than one, and you say promote replica, and it will basically reconfigure the replication topology such that the master basically becomes a slave, and the
replica becomes a new master.
Replica becomes the new master. So a couple things to notice. You'll notice that the elastic IP is now on the replica.
I see.
And it's still called replica because that's the name that I gave it. And you will notice that...
but we see the attribute of master in the role.
Yes, yeah. The role is now switched, so it's master and slave. So the production database, you recall, was the previous master,
yep.
And now he's
the slave.
He's the replica of the master. So there's one of our failover operations.
Fantastic. Great. So I mean, I understand that's also a tool I can use also to have zero downtime upgrade of the instance.
Right. So if you wanted to migrate to a larger instance type or data size, and you didn't want to use our resize operation because they have some downtime, minimal, but still some, you could basically use the replication technique to populate a brand new replica database that's got more compute and more storage, and then you could do this promote, and will allow you a bigger...
Is there a limitation on how many replicas I can have?
Practically no. I presume it's limited by how big your Symphony cluster is, but yeah, that's correct, no.
That's great.
So what else would we like to show? How about, we didn't actually go through, here's the resize operation. So one of the things you could do is say we could take this up to 15 gigabytes. So now this operation, as I previously mentioned, it'll actually shut the database down, the database process down, detach the volume, make it bigger, put it back, and bring everything back up. So that's a mechanism to scale the storage.
Got it. And we can also resize the instance as well.
That's correct. The operations are I'll show you when it comes back, but the operations can be done in sequence.
Perfect. So when we're administrating the instance, what kind of administrative actions can a managed database assist me with?
Right. So
we've seen replications, we've seen snapshotting.
Right.
We've seen resizing.
So you have the log management I talked about. You can do resizes. The other things you can do, you can parameters. You can change. So this is kind of a big deal. So one of the things, if you're managing an on-prem, on bare metal MySQL instance, you can go into the configuration and change it. Lots of administrators do that too.
Yep.
Here you don't have access to where that file's stored, but we have a mechanism to allow you to change it. Now, some important things about this mechanism to make it better than editing the file are that many of the parameters that you would have to set manually are done automatically for you based on the compute and storage resources.
Got it. And when you're using a parameter group, I can actually adjust multiple instances simultaneously.
That's correct. So the process here is you can make a parameter group. So let's say you have your user community is going to be starting up their own databases, but you want them to share parameters. So you can basically make a parameter group by doing duplicate. So there's a set of default parameters that everybody gets by default. If you want to adjust it, you make a new parameter group. And then you can see here's all the parameters that are relevant for MySQL. And if you change, let's find one, max connections, I think is just a reasonable one to. Let's find it here. So, right here. So let's just, so it's actually, so you can see in this one, it actually scales. It's got a formula based on the memory.
Available memory.
But I guess if we wanted to, we could change, let's change, oh, wait a minute, I know what's going on, not in the right parameter, but okay, so I'll take my production one here. Okay, here we go. There we go. So you can see that there's parameters that are editable, have edit boxes and such.
Yep.
So let's just...
You can't change the defaults. It has to be on your own parameter group definition.
Right, yeah, the defaults are not editable.
Yeah.
So we could go in here and change this one to this InnoDB parameter. Let's just change it to buffer pool instances. We'll change it to 5. Okay?
Yep.
So now, if I go back to, I'll just show this quickly. If I go back to the create panel, I kind of skipped over it the first time, but I'll show you now. Now that parameter group shows up here.
Yep.
And it'll be applied to this.
So it allows me to centrally manage parameters, adjusting multiple database instances.
Correct.
So it's much easier than bare metal databases.
That's correct. You can make sure that all of your databases come up with a particular configuration. And the other thing you can do is, if over time that configuration changes, you can just adjust the parameter in one parameter group and it'll apply it to all the instances dynamically.
That's the beauty of central management.
Right.
And I also saw there's an ability to upgrade an instance.
That is correct. So as Symphony rolls out new software, including new versions of the database engines, we will provide new patches of MySQL. So maybe this version is MySQL 5.7.22, and then we come up with my 5.7.23. So we have a mechanism now. I didn't load a new version, but right here, sorry, see, it's grayed out because there isn't an upgrade available. But if I had the upgrade available, I would push upgrade here.
So the benefit of a managed database service is actually maintaining and patching my base OS and database for me.
Correct. Yes, that is absolutely
That saves me a lot of time when I'm managing databases.
Absolutely. So I think we talked through create, and we talked through replication, and we talked through resizing, scaling. We talked through the management operations. Is there anything else we want to?
Backup and restore and upgrading.
Right. We have. We didn't do a restore. We could do that. So. So you'll notice. Well, you'll notice what's actually happened here as we've talked is I configured the production database instance to have an auto backup at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So we went through 2 p.m. So it took the auto backup. So you could select this. Say you wanted to do a point in time restore to 2 o'clock today. You just hit restore on this thing, and then it comes up. You could change the instance name or anything you like here. We picked the.
So now we can use the snapshot and create a new database.
Correct.
From it.
And you also get the chance here to pick to change the parameters if you like. Like maybe you don't want it on the network it was on, or you want a different size storage or whatever. So we'll make this one with no. We'll just go, and it by default has the credentials.
Same credentials, yeah. So easy.
Yeah, that's very easy. Yeah.
Symphony Database Services is making my life much easier when I'm managing a lot of databases.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So to learn more about Symphony, about databases, and about other functions, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our blog. And we have a lot of examples also sitting on our GitHub repository. So look for Stratoscale at GitHub to check things out. All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, rolling.
Okay, we're rolling. So Symphony Database Services is making my life easy managing a lot of databases. Fantastic. Where can we go and learn more about Symphony and database services?
See, I don't know the answer. Sorry. What was the answer? Our website is a YouTube. Sorry. Where's the script? I'm looking for the cue cards.
And you will